Se non entra la prima sono dolori.
La presenza agonistica di Sara Errani.
C'è l'italiano storico questo incontro.
Match point Nadal.
Inizia il match. Federer.
Hello tennis fans, this is Maniac Tennis Observers podcast, or in other words, MTO podcast. And, I am Giulio Gasparin, and you will have me being joined by, as usual, Ross Satter, Diego Barbiani, and René Denfeld for talking about this, what to say about this Australian Open. Hard to say. We've had two very different draws between men and women. We had a surprising winner on the women's side, and we had the most expected one on the men's side. But before starting to talk about this Australian Open 2016 in terms of results, I want to have our two correspondents down under, because Diego and Ross were in Australia for the first tournaments of the year, and what to say, they've been down there, and what is it like to be down under this time of the year?
Alright, so Australia and feelings around the Open. Is it the happy slam? It's happy-ish. It's not the happiest slam I've ever been to. I think there's quite a lot of stuff that, when people are travelling all the way around the other side of the world, things that you kind of expect, like transport to be sort of set up, but to be told that you can't leave until the last game of the match is, there were a couple of little niggles, I think, but generally I think it's a great slam. It feels like a smaller slam to me. I don't know about you.
Really, looking at the people who are here during the World 2 weeks, it's really happy slam, I think, because they are pumped up, they are excited, they want watching every kind of matches, from the first matches in the qualies until the matches of the junior tennis players, and they are every time they are yelling, they are so close to the players, and I think also that players loves play here.
Yeah, I think I guess I'm talking from a sort of journalist point of view, and I think by the time I got here I was quite tired. I hadn't got over the jet lag from Brisbane. I think you struggle, and once you're tired, you never get over that tiredness. But I do love their energy. I think that, and I can understand why players love it, because it does. Melbourne itself is amazing.
Yeah.
I love Melbourne. I could move here tomorrow.
I don't want to leave this place, also because, it's my first time here in Australia and also in Melbourne, obviously, and I really started to love this place. It's amazing. We are on the other side of the world. It's summer, and in Italy it's really cold at the moment. There is everything to have a really, really, really nice time here for us who are here as a journalist, but also for everyone.
Happy slam or not, as you can hear, a crowd can go very wild down under, and it can go especially if an Australian is playing an amazing match, as Dasha Gavrilova has been doing, and this was the crowd doing a match against Kristina Mladenovic. And of course she let's say is an adopted Australian, but we all know her story, so there's no point coming back to it and just get again through this part of it. But we know that it has been quite difficult for Australians, especially to emerge in the past few years, and we've seen probably the best Australian player they've had over the past few years, which is Samantha Stosur, struggling a lot with coping with the pressure, playing in front of the home crowd. We all know her record is pretty poor this year. Once again, she lost early, even earlier in the last year. She lost in the first round to Kristina Pliskova, and yeah, and also with Thanasi Kokkinakis being out, I think lots of expectations were on the shoulders of Tomic, first of all, and Kyrgios on the second hand, and especially about these later one and Dasha Gavrilova, we were very interested in knowing what really is the feeling around them down under.
It was really interesting to see how Gavrilova played her first Grand Slam as as a citizen of Australia, because the pressure was really high, and she played maybe her best slam of her young career. We can talk about her match against Mladenovic on ice, and maybe apart from the final between Serena Williams and Kerber, maybe that was one of the best matches of the tournament. 11-9 in the third, great atmosphere, a packed stadium on ice with thousands of Australian people who was screaming her name, who was chanting, who was doing everything to push her to the next round. I think she played really nice, and also against Suarez Navarro, where maybe she suffered a bit from the middle of the second set, but overall she played amazing, and I didn't expect it. I mean, she has everything to lose. I mean, it's her first slam as Australian, so people wanted to see her go through the tournament, and it was not easy for her to reach the fourth round.
No, I agree, and I thought she. What I liked about her fight against Mladenovic was that she really never gave up, and then when she struggled, I think she was very fatigued by the time and I think mentally as well. That match with Mladenovic took it out of her. And
but I think she improved a lot.
Oh yeah,
mentally, and also how she plays, because maybe she has more attention. And maybe she wants to construct better the point.
She wasn't rushing as much, but then I think when Suarez Navarro sort of does what she does and controls the points a lot more, I think Gavrilova got panicked and then got frustrated, and she's young as well. I mean, let's not forget that this is a big stage for her. But what really impressed me, if we can bring because the only other real Aussie, I don't think we could call Tomic a rising star because he's been here for quite a while. But what really impressed me about Gavrilova's match was there she was trying her guts out, and then on the other side of the court we had Kyrgios just acting like a petulant sock puppet. He was so
big difference between the two.
But here's the thing: my first Wimbledon a couple of years ago, I was in a writing room with Graham Agars, who's one of the Australian broadcasters. And they all loved Kyrgios that year that he beat Rafa, because he spoke in perfect sound bites and he knew what he wanted to do. But of course they built him up, and now the hype is too much. And I just find him to be, he's almost like, for me, dare I say it, a female Bouchard. It's like, you kind of got the attitude as if you won a lot of slams, but until you have won a lot of slams, quit chucking that shade about and actually buckle down and work, because, his attitude on that match compared to Gavrilova's on the other court were poles apart. And then for Gavrilova to apologise to people in her press conference for playing, in her quotes, I was playing like a little girl.
Honestly, I was really surprised about her apologize with everything, everyone.
Whereas, if you get an apology from Kyrgios, it's couched in such terms as, I'm sorry that you feel bad, because it's your fault that you feel bad that I've said this and it's upset you.
Totally
and
agree.
It's like, I think Nick could learn a lot from Gavrilova. I really think he could. And actually, it would make my heart sing for Gavrilova to be the one that succeeds out of this crop of, in inverted commas, young Australians.
Do you know the number of TV viewer that was published on the Australian newspaper?
No.
Okay, there was almost 2.5 million for Gavrilova against Mladenovic, and the same night, a couple of hours after, there was just 6,000 of people for Kyrgios against Berdych.
That says it all, really, doesn't it?
Well, if numbers cannot make you figure, in the case you haven't seen the match, well, this is a little recording of how the crowd was like during that match, and I think it can really give goosebumps. Well, as I said in the opening of this podcast, there haven't been many surprises on the men's draw, and it really felt as if everything was just going the way it was supposed to until the very end of it. But well, talking to Renee, we thought that one surprise after all was there, and maybe you can see it not as a huge surprise, but still as a very it's a kind of a first step in the right direction for one of the players out there.
I think overall the men's tournament reflected the current state of the ATP quite well. Everything's a bit stale, not a lot of shocks, not a lot of surprises. First time slam winner looked fairly unlikely throughout the entire tournament, but I think there's a case to be made for Milos Raonic being the most improved player coming into 2016. I know that Raonic still has got this tag or this badge of playing unpleasant tennis or boring tennis. I found myself fairly entertained by him this month, and I thought he played really well. Improved his returns significantly, comes into the net more, plays a lot more to his what should be his strengths essentially. He's got a massive wingspan, he can cover large portions of the net, and I liked what I saw from him. I think he has come leaps and bounds since we last saw him last fall, and if he keeps it up, I don't see a reason why Raonic shouldn't have a great 2016 and why he shouldn't be top 6 or something like that by the time Wimbledon runs round. So that was a very pleasant surprise over the course of the past 4 weeks.
But yeah, if we thought that Raonic was the surprise of the tournament, then most definitely there was no surprise in the final outcome of the event as a whole, because Novak Djokovic looked pretty much unstoppable from the first to the last match, apart from the bad game he played against Simon. That was very unexpected, but in the end we saw why he's such a great champion as he is, because in a very bad day against an opponent that really forced him to go for more than what he generally do with different balls, and a very smart game by Simon. Well, in the end, with the wheel and by hanging to a serve that looked probably the best has been looking in a long while, Djokovic really came out of this what potentially could have been a disastrous days for him. And well, after that, really there was little of a challenge for him to size the cup and lift the trophy of the Australian Open. Don't you think, Renee?
I think the beginning of 2016 already spelled trouble for the rest of the ATP Tour when Novak Djokovic steamrolled Rafael Nadal in the finals of Doha, and I don't think it came to anyone's surprise that Djokovic won his 6th Australian Open title this past weekend. Djokovic still has some off days. He has days when he just can't seem to produce his best tennis, but it's still enough to get past most opponents looking at his 4th round against Gilles Simon. And particularly at the business end of tournaments, Djokovic just seems to be able to play his best tennis when he has to against some of the biggest names. Looking at the first 2 sets against Federer, which were just next level stuff from Djokovic, coming up with some insane passing shots, incredible depth on his ground strokes, and Federer attacked, Federer tried, but just never had a look in on those two sets. In the third and fourth set, Federer played better, played some great rallies at times, but overall it just wasn't enough to get past the beacon of reliability, of stability from the back of the court, and of aggressive baseline prowess from Djokovic, essentially. And Andy Murray had a similar experience in the finals, tried to be a bit more aggressive than usual, but overall there are just so many things that Djokovic does better than Murray at the moment. Maybe even just a little, but it's just so many things, and once those little things add up, it is a lot, and it is a large gap between Novak Djokovic and the rest of the field at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the year pans out, because I don't see Djokovic losing in Indian Wells. I don't see him losing in Miami. I think he might be most vulnerable in Dubai, where the courts should be relatively quick. But honestly, I have some massive problems seeing Djokovic lose anything before the French Open at the moment. So great time if you are Novak Djokovic, or if you're a Djokovic fan, but yeah, if you're not Novak Djokovic, I'm not sure how many looks you're going to get in the next couple of months.
On the contrary, the women's draw, as it seems to be quite the case of late in Grand Slams especially, but on all the tournaments really, surprises were the no surprise of the day mostly. I think right now it's almost surprising if you see all of the top 4 seeds reaching the semi-finals in the women's draw, or at least 3 out of the 4. What happened in the women's draw is that we found that after the very first couple days, many of the possible, if not the possible winners, but many of the, I wouldn't say favorites, but many of the big names and the ones you would expect to reach later rounds of the Australian Open went out. Not only Simona Halep, but we've seen once again Caroline Wozniacki losing on one stage earlier. It's been the trend of the past years ever since reaching the final. Ever since reaching the semi-final. Year by year, she's done worse and worse every year around, and this year she suffered a surprising loss to Julia Putintseva, and that really nobody saw it coming, especially Wozniacki looked to be playing good tennis ahead of this event, and she did for the first set, and then once again it seems like there's a big mental problem with the Dane. But it's not only her. We've seen also Venus Williams losing to Joanna Konta, and Joanna Konta was probably the biggest surprise until the final, as she went deep in the draw as nobody would expect, and she was the one stopping Shuai Zhang. The other huge surprise is an amazing story hers, and she said that she was coming to the Australian Open believing this would be the last time she would play here, and she comes out playing an amazing match against Halep, and then goes all the way to reach the quarterfinals. And what a fantastic story, really. So many good ones, and then eventually we finished with a bang on a high the first time for Angie Kerber. What a deserved way to lift the first Grand Slam from the German, because beating Azarenka, she had lost 8 times out of 8 times. The last a couple of weeks ago in very brutal way, especially. So many times we said Kerber has got the game, she's got the will, but often she would just crumble under the pressure at the big stages, and she made it here, and that was a great fairy tale. But on a general, from the 2 correspondents down under, what was it like to go through these women's draw?
I suppose the biggest shock was Halep crashing out, but then with news of her injury, stroke, deteriorating septum, it's all a bit odd. Really.
It's a difficult situation for Simona, because we know that she's struggling with an injury from the middle of September.
Yeah.
She wasn't fit at the WTA finals.
Yeah.
And also she started the new year with a new injury, so it was really terrible for her, and terrible tournament for her here. And she lost with the girl coming from the qualies and made the quarterfinal.
I know. I mean, both Zhang and Konta had an amazing run. I mean, obviously from a British perspective, I don't think this has been like as much of a surprise. I guess for people that don't follow tennis, it probably is like kind of who's this? But I mean, we saw signs of this back in Eastbourne when she made a run to the quarterfinals and already was taking out hefty people, including Muguruza, who then went on to make the Wimbledon final. So,
and also the US Open.
Yeah,
Muguruza was knocked out by Konta.
Exactly. So it's not a surprise, but most people will have never heard of her and probably won't hear of her again until Wimbledon. But I think Kerber was too good for her. And on the subject of Kerber, I always said that if she got the first set, and if she could push it to 3, she would have a very good chance of taking the final. And she played, compared to how she was in Singapore, where I can remember just my own sense of exasperation when she was freaking out over the fact that somebody told her that she needed one set.
That was a really sad moment for her, disappointing moment for her.
And I think a disappointing moment for fans.
But she grew up really well.
Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it. That she, that not only was that
grew up mentally.
She really matured in that one instant, and I just thought it was, I thought we had a fantastic final.
Yeah.
That was an amazing. The quality of tennis, was incredible. Any other player, Serena would have beaten with a lot of those shots, a lot of those power shots from the back, and her cross-court attempts at winners. Any other player except somebody like Kerber, who can run everything down, is amazing.
If you notice it, Serena has a great power, obviously, on her serve. And Kerber every time tried to put the racket to hit the ball and put the ball on the other side of the court. So to create another problem to Serena, because maybe Serena is a really great player on the first 2 or 3 shots. But if you made her hit some other balls, I don't know how many, but if you put her in the condition to hit a lot of shots, maybe Kerber was in advantage position.
I actually put together an infographic about their stats, and Kerber's return stats were very strong, stronger than Serena's, and her ability to sort of take winning shots. I mean, Kerber in the past, one of her weaknesses has always been finishing off her shots. She never had that ability to go for a quick finish. And she's really learned that. She's really put the work in. I think a deserved winner, and we saw some beautiful stories here this year.
Absolutely. Maybe it was the best Grand Slam final in obviously in the female tournament. I don't know, from maybe the US Open 2011.
Wow.
So sorry, maybe it was 2012 when Serena beat Azarenka. When Azarenka served for the match on 5-4.
Yeah. No, it was a great quality.
Well, I couldn't really follow too much, sadly. Personally, I was busy working for a different sport for the past 25 days. I was in Poland. Yes, you are allowed to make the joke. I was back in Poland. But especially during the Australian Open, it feels more relevant than ever. But I was in Poland following handball, and I gotta say that the connection between tennis and handball became very, very true, especially in the later stages, as Germany quite unexpectedly reached the final and then beat Spain, whom they lost in the first round because it was a group stage. So it was in a way something similar to what happened to Kerber. And as Kerber won on the Saturday and the final being on Sunday, on Saturday we asked the German team, and they all said that they had been watching the final, and they were trying to find the inspiration from what Kerber did, and then eventually they did. So I really believe that was an outstanding weekend for German sport, and whom better than Rene can tell us what was the reaction in Germany to this historic win?
I'm not even going to lie, over the past 3 or 4 days, I still had to pinch myself occasionally. I still got goosebumps occasionally just thinking about the fact that Germany has a Grand Slam champion again, because it came out of left field. It was not expected whatsoever before 2016 got underway. That was just completely out of the question for me. I just did not see German win any slam at all. It just didn't seem likely to me, and I think in a way that makes it all the more wonderful and all the more special, to me at least. And I think it's the same for any country that is pining, longing for a Grand Slam champion because they never had one, or they didn't have one in a really long time. One example would obviously be Italy after Francesca Schiavone won the French Open. And I have to say, the coverage of Kerber's victory over here has been, it's been pretty good. I've been pretty pleased with it personally, because there was enthusiasm, there was a certain sense of euphoria, I'd say, but also, at least to the people who don't follow tennis on a regular basis, expectations for Kerber have not been blown out of proportion. No one said, oh, Kerber's going to win another 8 majors, or Kerber is going to win a Golden Slam this year. And that's been pretty pleasing, that people said this is a fantastic thing for tennis in Germany, but do not expect Kerber to have to win another 7 majors, because that would be just silly. But that is something that happens within countries that have been very spoiled in terms of success in one sport. And no matter what people say, I think the coverage across the world in terms of Kerber's victory has shown that Steffi Graf's shadow still looms massively over German tennis, even though Graf herself probably really wouldn't want it to be that way, because she's pretty much severed ties with professional tennis in many ways. But coverage over here has been pretty good, been met with a lot of enthusiasm, and I do hope that broadcasters and the German Tennis Federation will be able to capitalize a little bit on it, because I don't think there's a country where the discrepancy between people who play tennis and people who watch tennis is as large as it is here, because the German Tennis Federation is one of the largest federations in terms of members, with, I don't know, 1 million, 1.2 million, something like that anyways. And the number of people who actually watch tennis over here has been relatively small in comparison. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. But unless you haven't noticed, I am extremely happy about the fact that Angelique Kerber won the Australian Open 2016. And another footnote, Serena Williams' grace and sportsmanship in defeat has been met with a lot of respect over here and a lot of thumbs up, and that is also very nice to see, that these things do not get overlooked, even if people are enthusiastic about having a new champion.
Well, that's very nice to hear. We in Italy had a similar experience with Flavia winning the US Open, but so it's great to hear that something similar happened abroad. And Germany has got such a great tradition that it was just about time that another slam winner would grace the history of the nation, and I think that makes it even more interesting, the battle for medals in the Olympics, because nowadays, as we said in the previous podcast, Olympics have become a huge event for tennis, so it's great that more and more countries will be out for this gold medal in singles and doubles as well. Well, I really want to thank all of the other 3 guys, as it's been great once again to have them helping, and I really hope that all of you listening enjoyed it. And we promise that we will be back shortly with some more insights on the world of tennis.